Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're reacting to the video where Brian, a traveler from Texas, is trying to enter Australia but runs into some problems with immigration. My name is Agata and I'm a visa expert, so I will be explaining why some things happen and how to avoid them. And I will also be pausing videos to explain why certain things happen. Now remember, if you're traveling to Australia yourself and you are not sure what type of visa you need, make sure you visit iVisatravel.com when you will find all the tips and information about traveling to Australia. So, let's get started.
Brian from Texas only has $200, and that's attracted immigration's interest.
So, right off the bat, we can see that Brian has only $200 with him in Australia. So it's important to have sufficient funds to support yourself during your stay. And $200 in Australia is not much. Generally, visitors should shoot for about 5,000 Australian dollars or more, depending on the length of their stay. So basically having only $200 raises red flags for immigration officers and suggests that he might not have enough money for 3 months that he's planning to stay in Australia. So it might look like he's trying to come to Australia searching for a job illegally.
Lost his job about a week ago. He's only been working there for 3 months as a plant operator. He's got no debit cards, no credit cards.
All right, so here immigration officers uncover that Brian actually has lost his job back at home and he's been only working there for 3 months. And what is more, he doesn't even have any debit cards or any credit cards back from home, which again is raising some red flags. Now, you need to understand that one of the most common reasons for visa rejections is not being able to show strong ties back in your country. So the fact that Brian doesn't have any of those things, he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have bank cards, he doesn't have bank account, it definitely raises some suspicion. So instead, it might look like he's trying to immigrate to the country. So if you are in a similar situation, make sure that you can prove all the ties back to your country, which can be, again, proof of funds, it can be your bank statements, it could be having credit cards, having debit cards, and more than anything, having a stable job back home.
Brian says he's fallen head over heels with a woman he met on the internet. He's never seen her in person before, and whether he will today is up to Ken in immigration.
Right, so Brian here is mentioning that he is visiting a girlfriend that he actually met online and has never seen in person. So immigration officers might be skeptical about such short online relationship because there is a higher risk of visa misuse, and of course he could be lying, the relationship doesn't have any proof to be anything serious, so it doesn't really show as real, and often it is actually these types of relationships are used to come to the country, stay there and work illegally. So let's see what happens next.
I'll ask you a number of questions that you must answer truthfully.
Yep.
The penalty for an offence against Section 234 of the Migration Act is 10 years imprisonment. Now, do you understand that?
So Ken here, who is the immigration officer, reminds Brian of the serious penalties if you decide to lie in that type of interview/interrogation. So actually there is a Section 234 of the Migration Act that states clearly that the penalties for providing false or misleading information can result in up to 10 years in prison. And this is to make sure that people are truthful in their visa applications and interviews.
If Brian's only here for love, he's packed some unusual items.
So we don't know what the items are, but it's important to know that at this stage, that if they can prove that he looks like he's planning to stay, then they can send him back home. So he doesn't seem to be able to demonstrate the strong ties to home, like I told you before, which is very, very important. And it does look like he might be staying illegally. And if they really think that is the case, that might be it for him. Now let's see what documents they have found.
Information so far we've got is his forms in regards to his citizenship in America, his graduation certificate. He's got no details of where he's going to go, what he's going to do, or anything like that.
So Brian has brought along some documents like his citizenship papers and graduation certificate, but not enough details about his plans of visiting Australia. So this lack of preparation can make officers doubt the legitimacy of his visit. And usually what you have to provide, really important to remember, is clear itinerary, proof of accommodation, and evidence of sufficient funds. This will be also some of the things that always immigration officers might ask you for. So it's very important to be prepared. Now remember, if you're traveling to Australia yourself and you're not sure whether you're going to need a visa or ETA, visit iVisatravel.com and check our visa checker tool. It will guide you to the type of visa you will need to visit Australia or any other country. You will also be able to check all the visa requirements, contact support 24/7 and apply in your own language.
Noticing some of your paperwork there, you brought a work resume with you. Why did you bring that with you?
I was looking into maybe coming here to work and live, but that's if the relationship continued. That was on my mind.
Right, so big mistake. Brian mentions that he brought a resume just in case he decides to stay longer if the relationship works out. Well, he doesn't frame it this way. He says that he will think about even applying or even trying to migrate to Australia, right? But this is a major red flag. And on a tourist visa, you are not allowed to work at all. And bringing resume suggests he might be planning to do just that. So again, we are getting clearer and clearer picture of what Brian's situation is. So let's count red flags again. No ties to strong country, no work, no banking in his home country. He doesn't have enough funds. He doesn't have itinerary. He brings a lot of certifications, but like nothing super important. And now on top of that, they found that he brought resume. I don't think it's looking good for Brian, guys, but let's see what happens.
You know the conditions of a visitor's visa, don't you?
Yes, sir.
The main reason on a tourist visa is that you don't work.
Yes, sir. No working, yes.
Do you understand that?
Yes, sir. No working, yes.
Right, so here the Ken, immigration officer, is reminding Brian that he can absolutely never work on tourist visa, which is super, super important to remember. You cannot categorically work while on tourist visa to any country. Otherwise, you can face several penalties and even future bans.
Cash. You should have enough money to support yourself for 3 months, which is, well,
but
you can work that out.
$200 won't get Brian past day one in Sydney.
That is very funny. The voiceover says, yeah, $200 will not get Ken past 1 day in Sydney. True. So here also the visa officers are pointing out that he doesn't have sufficient funds. So immigration expects you to have enough funds to cover yourself for the duration of your stay without needing to work. So this helps prevent visitors from becoming a burden on public resources or seeking illegal employment like mentioned before. So again, funds, super important.
You've got no incentive to go back to the United States?
I have very much incentive. I could, at least there I'm at home. That's my home turf.
Right, so as we can see here, it is my home turf is what Brian is answering to Ken's question, where he's trying to find information for Brian to prove that he has a strong ties to the home country. Now, in case of visas, you really need to show the strong association and those strong ties into a home country. So again, this is one of the most popular reasons for visa rejections. And just as a reminder, no job at home, doesn't have any debit or credit cards. Some things actually that you could show to show that you have good ties to your home country could be stable job, as I said before, your family being there, maybe you have children there, property, or a spouse that are back in your home country. But Brian doesn't seem to have any of those for the minute.
Here, I already told her I don't have enough money. I only have enough for the plane ticket. So if I get there, you have to deal with the rest of the other part.
Well, that's very nice for his girlfriend. If I get here, you have to take care of the rest of this part. So that is really strange. He comes with no money, not even enough for a week. He is relying on the online girlfriend that he supposedly knows for 2 weeks to support him for 3 months. So there is a lot of red flags here for Ken, but let's see what happens.
She said she agreed to it, and that was what she said. So if she still doesn't agree with that, then I have no reason to be here.
So Brian mentions that if the girlfriend doesn't support him, he has no reason to be here. And again, you decide for yourself if you find this suspicious. If I was the visa officer, the immigration officer, I would want to speak to this girlfriend of his and maybe try to verify what she's saying about this whole situation.
And I said, are you going to be supporting him? She said, well, I don't know. So his expectations of her is much more than what she's telling me.
Right, so as suspected, the girlfriend doesn't seem to want to support him. For now, we only have the information because this officer actually called her, and I think they're gonna call her in to see her. But like, oh Brian, what are you doing? What are you doing? What did you think was gonna happen? So you see, a lot of people will take that chance to see what's gonna happen. But imagine the cost of flights for this guy, this poor guy. And he might not even step foot in Australia. Is it worth it? Decide for yourself.
It's looking very much like we may consider cancelling your visa.
Well, as expected, too many red flags. But the show continues, so let's see what happens later and if they investigate any further.
For the time frame of 3 months of what I do to be here, then it's just to spend my time with her. She'll be going to work and I'll be staying home, wherever she has set up the place for me to stay.
Right, so I think that Brian is trying to get to a little bit more emotional side of Ken at this stage. I doubt that without any ties back to home, he has any solid arguments. But let's see what happens next.
Did you ask him to come to Australia?
No, I asked him if he wants to travel to see Sydney.
Oh, that doesn't look good for Brian. Their stories don't really match. So I really wonder what Ken will do at this point, and also, poor girl to be in this situation.
He really wants to see you.
So I don't know what happened.
So you'd look after him
Yeah.
while he's here.
But he doesn't know anyone else.
Well, the good news is that she's willing to support him, I guess. But her emotional state will also point to the fact that she's very stressed and very overwhelmed with the whole situation. And that she's also surprised. I mean, she said that she just thought that he's going to come and visit Sydney. I don't know if she expected him to stay for 3 months. But again, if you ever are planning to use the fact that you have someone on your, on the spot to support you, make sure that this person is aware and on board, because it looks very, very fishy.
I'm trying to prepare myself if he says I got to go home. I'm thinking, please don't let me see her. So if they let me see her, then I'll probably even miss her more. So better just not let me see her.
That statement is even more bizarre to me. Like, you would rather not see the girl and go back to the US. Like, the entire story he told now is even more suspicious. And I really wonder if they're gonna send him home. Let's see.
No, she's expecting him, and she's willing to support him.
So we didn't really see it like this, to be fair. The show is, though, very heavily edited, and it probably was a longer interrogation, and we just saw some clips of it. So Ken is now saying that she's willing to support him and she wants to see him. So maybe it wasn't portrayed this way. Let's see. It seems like Ken is getting a little softer, but let's see what happens next.
Look, I tend to believe the story. She got a little bit upset, which seems to me that there is some sort of emotional attachment with this guy.
So Ken seems to be leading with heart on this one. Again, we need to take under further consideration that this interrogation probably took a few hours, and there's probably more information that we don't know about. But let's see if Brian is let into Australia.
If he abides by the law, then I have to go. But if he abides by compassion and understanding, then he will let me stay.
So that is very well said from Brian, because as I mentioned before, demonstrating you have enough funds, plans and ties to your home country is absolutely crucial. But he might be lucky.
And our decision is that we're going to let you in here.
A little bit.
Woohoo! Wow! Lucky Brian. Very lucky Brian. I still hope that if you're traveling to Australia, you can see that the amount of stress and interrogation is simply not worth it. And you need to be prepared to enter Australia seamlessly. Like, all that process he went through, I can only imagine that it has been hours, and it couldn't have been easy. But congratulations, Brian.
A little bit scared, but I think I'll be all right.
As for any long-term romance, it seems that is completely up to fate.
Right, so there you have it. Brian's lack of funds, unclear plans and weak ties to his home country all contributed to immigration doubting his intentions. So that surely contributed to a very high level of stress. So always ensure that you're well prepared with enough funds, clear plans, strong ties to your home country when you're applying for a visa. So again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to click like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more expert advice on visa and travel. Thank you. Bye.